The clock is ticking on the deadline for the Justice Department to release the Epstein files. The DOJ has until Friday to comply with the Epstein Files Transparency Act, which was signed into law last month. But questions remain, like what will they actually release? What clarity might the files add to the trove of images House Oversight Democrats released earlier this week, showing Jeffrey Epstein and his powerful associates? And perhaps more importantly, what if they don't comply? Joining us now, Democratic Congressman Suhas Subramaniam of Virginia. He is a member of the House Oversight Committee. Welcome.
To be honest, I'm very skeptical at this point. They clearly seem like they're just trying to set up a narrative where they're going to go after Democrats only. This is what Trump has been saying himself. They haven't answered any of my letters or calls to at least tell us what the files are and whether they've been tampered with or not and how they're being secured. So they haven't really said much or communicated much with us. Now, they've had a 4-month subpoena. It's been 4 months since we subpoenaed them from our committee to release the files. They released one sort of batch that was about 97% public, and the other 3% weren't very informative or useful. And so they're not doing a great job so far. They don't have a good track record on this. So we'll see what happens, but I'm skeptical right now. What we've released is more of like highlights, things that we are finding a lot. I'll give you another example. A few batches ago, we released 3 Trump emails with correspondence related to Trump. And Republicans said we were cherry picking by releasing those. And it turned out Trump was in 1,500 emails of that batch. And so don't be surprised if Trump is in other pictures in this batch too. We're still going through it. But my point is that we're showcasing all of the people who victims said were involved with Jeffrey Epstein or knew Jeffrey Epstein well. And 2, just looking at these pictures of his property, how do you go into his property? How do you go to his island or his mansion and not come away feeling like there's some sort of crime happening? I mean, look at that picture, for instance. There's literally a naked woman's picture on his desk while he's talking to Steve Bannon. And this is well after he was convicted of some of his crimes. And so how do you, say that you had no idea what was going on, like the president has, and still sort of, continue this story?
Welcome back, guys. This story honestly feels like one of those moments where you stop and ask yourself how many times the public is expected to hear "just wait" from powerful institutions. The Justice Department is facing a clear deadline to release the Epstein files under the Epstein Files Transparency Act. And now a number of Congress is openly saying that missing this deadline would be flat out illegal. That alone tells you how serious this situation has become. Representative Suhas Subramaniam from Virginia, who sits on the House Oversight Committee, is not sounding confident at all about the DOJ doing what it's supposed to do. And when you listen to his reasoning, it's not hard to understand why. He points out that the DOJ has already released material in the past that didn't really inform the public. It was vague, incomplete, and came without proper communication. From his point of view, this isn't transparency, it's just checking a box and hoping people move on. What really stands out is his warning about the consequences. He says very clear that if the DOJ does not comply by the deadline, it's not just a political issue, it's a legal one. Congress passed a law and the DOJ is bound by it. Ignoring it could lead to court orders and long legal fights over whether the administration is following the law at all. That's a strong statement, and it shows just how much tension there is between Congress and the Justice Department right now. Then there's the accusation that Democrats are cherry picking files to push a narrative. Subramaniam pushes back hard on that. He explains that what has been released so far are just highlights from a massive collection of more than 90,000 images. That number alone is shocking. According to him, the committee is still reviewing these images and more could come out, including ones involving very powerful and well-known figures. He even suggests that additional images involving Donald Trump could emerge as the review committees. What's important here is not just who might appear in these images, but what the images show. Subramaniam makes it clear that they reveal crimes taking place on Epstein's property. That matters because it undercuts the common excuse that visitors did not know what was going on. If criminal activity is visible and documented, it becomes much harder for everyone to claim total ignorance. Another key point is the cooperation or lack of it from different sides. Interestingly, the Epstein estate itself has been cooperative in providing files. That's not something many people would expect. At the same time, the committee is expanding its investigation beyond just images. They are sub-opening banks and financial institutions to follow the money, something victims have been asking far from the beginning. This financial trail could reveal who enabled Epstein, who benefited, and who may have helped keep his operation running for years. Subramaniam also addresses the nature of the images, and this is where the conversation becomes even more uncomfortable. He confirms that some of them are disturbing and explicit. He compares them to the image involving Steve Bannon that has already been made public. This creates a real this creates a real dilemma for investigators. On one hand, there's a demand for transparency. On the other hand, there's a responsibility to protect victims from further harm. Balancing those two things is not easy, but it doesn't remove the obligation to tell the truth. The financial angle of this case might be the most revealing of all. Subramaniam criticizes the DOJ for failing to properly prosecute Epstein's financial crimes. He explains that Epstein's money, his sex tracking, and his social life were all deeply connected. Following wire transfers, bank records, and financial statements could help paint a much clearer picture of how this entire network functioned. It's not just about Epstein as an individual, but about the system that allowed him to operate for so long. Listening to all this, it's hard not to feel frustration. This case has been going on for years, and every time it seems like the full truth might finally come out, something delays it. Deadlines pass, documents trickle out, and the public is told to be patient. Subramanian's comments reflect a growing impatience inside Congress itself, not just among the public. At the end of the day, this isn't about politics or party lines, it's about the rule of the law and accountability. If Congress passes a law requiring transparency, then the Justice Department has a duty to follow it. If it doesn't, that sets a dangerous precedent. It tells people that even clear legal mandates can be ignored when the stakes are high enough. The Epstein case is already one of the darkest chapters in recent history, involving abuse, power, and silence. The way the government handles these files now will say a lot about whether justice truly applies to everyone or only to those without influence. Because if the truth keeps getting delayed, hidden, or diluted, then the real crime isn't just what happened in the past, but what's still being allowed to happen today. Thanks for watching my video. I will see you in the next video.